Hey, y'all. Tonight, special, or today, whenever you're listening, and thank you for listening. Of course, this is Matt Rogers. So today we have the infamous, the legendary D Gunn.
Infamous. I like that.
The infamous D Gunn. D Gunn, tell the people about yourself, and obviously you talk birds all the time, all over the place, especially JAKIB Media. But what led you there, and what are you working on right now?
Well, when I left NBC in August of 2020, I was blessed enough to be approached by a number of entities. I was working for CBS in Philadelphia. I was working for 97.5, doing some shows for the Eagles, some podcasts for the Eagles as well. And then all of a sudden, I would say last summer, Joe Kraus, who's the CEO of JAKIB Media, back in the day, oh my goodness, 10 years ago, he and I used to do a radio show on WBCB radio. We used to do a two-hour football show together, and we always kept in touch. And, he founded JAKIB Media Sports 10 years ago, but it really started taking off last year. And he said, hey, would you be interested in doing some shows for me? And I said, let's talk and see what you're thinking. And lo and behold, we did. And so then around November of last year, he said, I want to do a 3-hour talk show with you, Rob Ellis, who's well known for being a radio host in the Philadelphia area, and former Eagle Barrett Brooks, who was already doing a show for him on the JAKIB Sports Media Network. And so, Barrett, Rob, and I, we worked together at NBC for a long time, so we knew each other well, good friends. We knew if we could make this work, it would be organic. And so we launched the show April 18th called Sports Take, a 3-hour talk show, talk mostly football, but we cover everything, including famous people's birthdays, special date moments on these dates, whatever the date is. And you got basically 3 class clowns who love talking sports, who take shots at each other every opportunity we get. But I've been covering the sports scene for 43 years now. I know you wanted to get that in there, so I got it in before you got your dig in. And I've covered it.
I'm more than impressed, D. I'm sure you know that, man.
I've covered the Chargers, the Packers, the Steelers, and for the last 25 years, covered the Eagles here on the East Coast. And I've been blessed to continue to keep doing this and stay relevant in the market, tri-state area between southeastern PA, South Jersey, and Delaware. And JAKIB Media is just blowing up. Our show has only been on the air roughly 4 months and is already just taken off tremendously, which we knew it would. And so coming up, starting this Sunday, I will be doing a pregame show with a radio host, Mark Farzetta, here in Philadelphia, along with Seth Joyner, former Eagle, and then a postgame show with former 97.5 radio host Mike Missinelli, Seth Joyner, and myself, and a lady named Devin Caney. So like you said, and then, of course, I'm still doing a Gun on One podcast, which you can now find starting next week on the JAKIB Media platform, as well as wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, so on and so forth. So I don't sleep much, man. I keep rolling.
Absolutely. So getting into the birds, because we're just a couple days away. If you're listening on the morning of, this will still be fresh for you. Jalen Reagor will be coming back. He's not on the Eagles anymore, but he will be back in Lincoln Financial Field very soon. What are you thinking about that as you look ahead? Don't want to sleep on the Lions. I don't want to. Right. But looking forward to, just a few days away, do you think Jalen Reagor might have something for us?
Well, when you talk about that Vikings offense, first of all, I've said since the spring, I thought that Jalen Reagor needed a fresh start. It just didn't pan out for him here in Philadelphia. Fan base here was down on him. He took some comments that were sent from the media personal and then shot back through Twitter, and then he had to delete his comments. I just thought he just needed a fresh start. He had talent. He just didn't utilize that talent to the best of his ability in Philadelphia. And so now he goes from one contender to another contender. When you look at this Vikings offense, the primary focus of this offense is Justin Jefferson, a guy who was taken one spot behind Jalen Reagor in the draft. Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, and the tight end Irv Smith. And so Jalen Reagor, until he proves otherwise, will be an afterthought.
Okay.
And we have jokingly said on our show, the last person we want to come in here and see put a dagger in the Eagles would be Jalen Reagor. But he has an opportunity there to grow there and kind of hide in the shadows. He doesn't have to go there and be the man. So I could see the Vikings drawing up a place specifically for him to let him shine back here in Philadelphia. Hopefully, it doesn't do too much damage to the Eagles, but I can see a scenario where he gets not a last laugh, but he gets to say, "See, I told you so."
Another guy who's not on the Birds anymore, Jordan Howard. We're not going to see him this year. The person that they brought in to play, I think at least play that role, is Trey Sermon. How much do you expect to see of him this week? And then moving forward, do you think he has a substantial similar role as Jordan Howard?
Well, I think their lineup is set in terms of running backs. You start with Miles Sanders, who's their bell cow, which is weird to say in an Eagles offense, because a bell cow, you're thinking about a guy carrying the ball 25 times a game. A bell cow who runs the ball for the Eagles touches the ball maybe 15 times, 16 times in a game. And then you got Kenneth Gainwell, who they're really high on, especially catching the ball out of the backfield. And then Boston Scott has been a utility guy. This is a guy who's 5'6", 5'7", but he's like a bowling ball. He just bounces off tackle. He's stocky frame. So Sermon's going to have a little difficult time trying to find his niche here in this offense. I think the only way his role will be elevated in this offense is if Miles Sanders goes down. And then I think that will give him more of an opportunity. This is a contract year for Miles. Miles obviously is auditioning every game. The Eagles want to find out exactly what he can be to this organization moving forward. Running backs are not the high commodity they used to be. Running backs, I hate to say it, are a dime a dozen now across the National Football League. But Miles knows what's at stake here. People question his durability. He's had an injury history here. So he's got to prove that he's durable. There's no question he can play the game at a high level. He is a home run threat every time he gets an open space. But he just hasn't shown it enough. I mean, he went through the entire last season without a touchdown. He missed 4 or 5 games because of an injury, but he had no touchdown as a running back, which is unheard of.
Right.
So he knows what's at stake here. So Sermon will probably get his niche or an expanded role based on the availability of the other 3 backs in front of him.
Do you think that yes, I agree. I think that they'll give Miles Sanders a chance to lead the team and continue to feed him the ball in a similar way that they continue to try to give Jalen Reagor every chance to make plays. But do you think he'll lead the team in rushing this year?
If he stays healthy, yes. I do think Miles will lead the team in rushing if he stays healthy. Now, leading the team rushing might be 850, 910 yards rushing. I don't think you'll have a 1,000-yard running back in this offense, because Jalen Hurts is going to take off and run as well. And Jalen is going to get his yardage. But I do think if Miles can stay healthy, that he will easily surpass 800 yards rushing in this offense.
And do you think that they go to that early? Do you think that they try to continue to maintain that team identity, pounding the ball, or they're going to come out and try to open up the field and get Jalen Hurts throwing the ball 35 times, 30 times a game?
Well, you didn't bring A.J. Brown in here and pay him $100 million to block. A.J. Brown is a pass catcher. Devonta Smith is an excellent route runner. Quez Watkins is another year advanced in this offense. He brought in Pascal from Indianapolis, Nick Sirianni did, who he's familiar with, to be in a slot. So they're going to try to have more of a balanced offense. Now, there are going to be games where they're going to have to run the ball more than they pass the ball because the running game is so effective against an opponent. And if they're moving the ball, moving the chains, putting points in the end zone, you want to control the clock and make sure the other team's offense can't get back in the field. But they want to be more of a balanced offense. This organization needs to see how much Jalen Hurts has grown as a complete quarterback. He's only in his 3rd year. I don't expect him to be a complete finished product in his 3rd year. But based on everything that we've heard since the offseason back in January, he's spent time with the quarterback gurus out in California. He's been putting in the work in the classroom. He's a hard worker. Nobody can outwork him. He's a true student of the game. And plus, when you look at the programs that he's played for at the collegiate level, both Alabama and Oklahoma, he knows what it takes to win and be in a winning environment. And he knows this is a big year for him in terms of answering questions. Can he be a frontline quarterback, or is he going to be a habitual backup in his career? So it's wait and see. We have discussed every platform I've been on. We have discussed every aspect you can discuss of Jalen Hurts.
It's time to see him play.
Time to see him play. I'm tired of talking about it.
Right.
Time to see him play. And I think Detroit will be a good test. I think Detroit is a team that's going to be an up-and-coming team. I don't think they've arrived yet. Detroit did not make a lot of offseason moves in terms of bringing in free agent personnel. Dan Campbell decided that he likes the nucleus of players that he has. Detroit just has to learn how to win before they can win. They went 3-13-1 last year, but they were in a lot of games down to the last possessions. The Eagles was the only real lopsided game they played in last year. Well, the Eagles blew them out 44-6 and ran for over 200 yards against them. They drafted Aiden Hutchinson, who's going to be a great addition along that offensive line. They got Michael Brockers there. They got a wide receiver named St. Brown, who I really like, a young receiver. DeAndre Swift, he can step. The offensive line has 3 former first-round picks on it, and they're healthy. It's a healthy team. And I guarantee you the battle cry all week has been, remember what the Eagles did to us last year.
Absolutely. There's no way it's not.
Yeah. So I expect it to be an entertaining game, but I just think the Eagles have too much talent on paper, even though the regulars did not play much in the preseason. I think they just have too much talent on paper to go in there to lose to Detroit.
If they do you think they bounce back against the Vikings, or if they lose one, they might go 0-2?
Well, the Vikings are going to be a good test. I like the Vikings defense. I think the Vikings have one of the better trio of linebackers since they added Jordan Hicks to go along with Eric Kendricks. And, of course, they picked up Zadarius Smith from Green Bay, who 2 years ago was one of the best sackers in the league. He only played one game last year because of a back injury. You know who the weapons are on offense for Minnesota? It's going to be a good, entertaining game. If the Eagles somehow, some way, found a way to lose this game against Detroit, there's going to be a sense of urgency like you've never seen, because the fans are going to lambaste them for 8 days until they get back on their horse. It's their home opener. It's on a Monday night in national broadcast game. They're going to be more than ready for that game. I think that I can't wait. That's another game. I can't wait to see them go up against Minnesota's off their offense. Minnesota's offense against this defense with Bradbury and Slay on the outside, and and Hassan Reddick coming off the edge along with Brandon Graham back from that Achilles injury.
Absolutely. I wrote something that's coming out in the next few hours about the comparing the 2014, the 2017 team, and the 2022 team. Of course, there's a lot more on paper to it when you're talking about the 2022 team because we haven't really seen it yet.
Right.
As far as the offense goes, I had to give the slight edge over all 3 to the 2017 team with the backup quarterback, the strong running back situation, with the depth along that offensive line. But as far as on paper, again, with the 2022 team, I had to give it to this version of the Philadelphia Eagles. Do you think that's, first of all, do you think that that's even remotely reasonable? Two, do you think that the 2022 team has that kind of ceiling, like a potential making a run?
Well, the comparison that you made is incomplete because we haven't seen this nucleus of 2022 perform yet.
Yes.
On paper, they look great. I mean, A.J. Brown on one side, you got 2 bookend tackles and Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata, who's really come a long way from a guy who didn't even know how to put on a football uniform a few years ago to now being considered one of the best left tackles in the game. Jason Kelsey is one of the best, if not the best centers in the game. The kid they picked up last year, Landon Dickerson, has really come on. They started out at right tackle, and he was not a real niche for him. They moved him over to the left side, and it's been smooth sailing ever since with that team. The quarterback comparison, still a huge question mark in that regard. You compare them to the 2017 team.
No, going into it, there's really with all respect to,
Right.
I had to make them better than the '04 team because behind Donovan, who's the best of all time for the Eagles, in my opinion,
Right.
behind him, you got Coy Detmer and Jeff Blake. So,
Yeah. But you look at the running back you had in '04. You had a guy named
right.
Brian Westbrook, who had 177 carries that year in '04, but
Yep.
he also had 73 catches for over 700 yards.
Yes.
So Brian Westbrook was as complete a back as you could find in the league during that era. And I think he's comparable to any of the backs the Eagles have right now.
Way better.
I think the depth on this running back situation is better than the '04 situation.
Yes.
But you look at that 2017, they had LeGarrette Blount and Jay Ajayi. They had two workhorses.
Yes.
It's a fun comparison. What you wrote is great conversation. It's pick your poison. Was Lito Shepherd and Sheldon Brown on '04 better than Slay and Bradbury?
Yet to be seen. Again,
pick your poison. You look at the linebacking core from 17. You had Michael Kendricks, Jordan Hicks, who got injured, and Nigel Bradham. They were all playmakers. Yep. Are they better than this collection of Kazir White, TJ Edwards, Hassan Reddick? Pick your poison. I think Jordan Hicks was one of the more underrated linebackers.
Absolutely.
All he did was make plays and make tackles. That's all he did.
He did.
And he had, carved out a nice niche for himself in Arizona when he moved on. Now he's in Minnesota. His problem was he couldn't stay healthy. He had a lot of injuries. But it's a great comparison. You look at the '04 offense. It starts with T.O.
Yep.
Is T.O. better than A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith?
Better individually, but behind him.
Yeah, Todd Pinkston.
No.
No. So I think the grouping on paper of 2022 of receivers is better than '04, but T.O. was T.O. back then. And look at what that man did playing on basically one leg in the Super Bowl. He had over 120 yards receptions in the Super Bowl playing on one leg because of ankle surgery back then. So your article, I'm sure, is great conversation. It will create a lot of buzz. It's pick your poison.
Yes.
You look at the '04 team, offensive line. I think the center and guards of this team in 22 is better than '04. Yes. But the '04 tackles were John Runyon and Trey Thomas, two of the best in the game back then. So is Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata better than those two were?
I had to give it to the 17. I had to give the tackles to the 17 team because they had Big V. They had Peters.
Remember, Jason Peters got hurt. He didn't even finish the season.
But carry him through the season. Big V played great down the stretch.
Yes, he did.
And Lane Johnson of 2017, I think he might still be the best right tackle in football. I would contend that. I would argue that.
And that's a great argument. Jason Peters and Lane Johnson versus John Runyon and Trey Thomas. That's a great argument. Lane Johnson today, who's still one of the premier right tackles in the game, and Jordan Mailata, who's one of the best left tackles in the game, compared to those two teams. It's a great argument. I can't pick one.
It's a lot of fun, and so it's rare that you really get to go into a season thinking that the team you have on paper could really stack up with two teams that are legendary in this city.
Right. Exactly. And, that '04 team broke a lot of people's hearts because they got to the big show. They lost to the evil empire, New England, by 3 points in the Super Bowl. And people today say the Patriots cheated. It was shortly after that when it came out that supposedly the Patriots were cheating, and people rode that until the Eagles finally won the Super Bowl in 17. And then, of course, the nucleus of that team came back in 2005. Not only were they decimated by injuries, because they finished 6-10 that year, but then T.O. went off the deep end, got himself kicked off the team, and everything was just messed up. And then couple that with the injuries, that team that a lot of people thought would go back to the Super Bowl again didn't even finish above sea level in terms of record.
Yeah.
So that really hurt a lot of people in this area.
And that's a different approach than, and I thought that the article, and I hope you I'll be sure to send it over to you, of course,
Absolutely.
but it's a different approach that the team builders of this team have taken than the 17 and the 14. The 17 and 04 teams were like, we're going for it, forget the picks. We're trying to win now. I mean, 17, you didn't have that expectations, but they filled that team with a lot of 1 year, 2 year kind of deals, as opposed to 22, where you're having a lot of guys who they're building in guys I expect to be building blocks of this franchise.
Well, yes and no. I mean, they've had 2 great drafts. We think this draft is going to be a big draft. I can't wait to see Jordan Davis play. That man is a house on 2 legs.
Oh my gosh.
Nakobe Dean has been relatively quiet all training camp. We've watched him play in preseason games. He's been out of position, making too many tackles downfield. And we're going to find out what Nakobe Dean is to Jonathan Gannon in this defense. He's an excellent pass rusher based on the film you watch him play at Georgia. But James Bradbury is here on a 1-year contract. Kazir White, 1-year contract. The kid they just picked up from the Saints, the safety.
Gardner Johnson.
These are all quick fixes. How will that pan out? That's yet to be seen. That 2017 team, you look at what Howie did. He got Alshon in here, Alshon Jeffrey. He goes out and gets a Ronald Darby. He goes out and gets a Patrick. Was it Patrick, the cornerback?
Patrick
Robinson, who had an unbelievable play in that playoff game against the Vikings that changed the whole complexion of the game in that pick 6. And Chris Long was the one who hit the quarterback's arm, caused the ball to float. Chris Long was here. Chris Long was past his prime, but Chris Long was very effective in the role he had here, along with Fletcher Cox. So you lost that season. Your quarterback was the leading MVP candidate in Carson Wentz. He goes down. Your future Hall of Fame left tackle, Jason Peters, goes down. A future Hall of Famer return specialist, Darren Sproles, went down. Jordan Hicks went down. You played a Super Bowl game against New England with a backup quarterback and a passed-up offensive line, and you found a way to beat them. And Brandon Graham makes the play of a lifetime, because if he doesn't make that play, you knew the Patriots were coming back. The Eagles defense couldn't stop them. Patriots had guys running wide open all over the middle of the field. Tom Brady had over 500 yards passing in the Super Bowl.
And that's to exactly your point, D Gunn. That's why when on the offensive end, because of the depth, because of, the incredible play that you got out of that quarterback position, and then Nate Sudfeld still in the league, still a decent backup, third quarterback. The offense, I had to give the nod to the 17 team overall, depth, all of that included. But the defense, Tom Brady completely shredded those guys.
No question.
Shredded them. I mean, and they won with 41 points. That's what we needed to win.
Unbelievable. And you needed a strip sack to change the complexion of the game as well, But it was a Cinderella season. I mean, Nick Foles has a statue outside of Lincoln Financial Field. Name another city where a backup quarterback has a statue outside of a stadium.
Legendary.
Okay? That one moment in time, it was the perfect storm for this team. And, of course, people thought they'd go back a lot sooner. Hasn't happened since. But when you look at this nucleus and this collection of talent, and you look at how the NFC is structured right now, outside of the Rams, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, and the Eagles could be right there at the end in the NFC Championship game.
So we were talking about Lane, and it's a very interesting, I want it to kind of push people to start kind of thinking about, because I think Lane Johnson, again, I would say best right tackle in football, but he just took a contract restructuring that's going to give the team more flexibility. Again, the best right tackle in football, I think, taking a restructure. Do you think that that's so that they have the quick flexibility to sign like you said, a CJ Gardner Johnson, re-sign and bring those guys back in the fold? Or is that to make another splash move now?
I just said on our show Sports Take earlier today, when Howie Roseman does something like that close to the season, there's possibly another move coming somewhere. Howie Roseman doesn't sleep. That man's always on the phone, always trying to make a deal to make his team better. I would not be shocked. I don't know where, what position, or how he's going to do it, but it just tells me that Howie's thinking about making another move somewhere at a position him and the coaching staff identifies that needs to be shored up and add a little bit more depth to. So I can't wait to see what happens with this particular move.
Wow. So that's, you heard it here. Obviously you could have heard it earlier on Sports Take, which starts at 12, right, Derrick?
12 noon Eastern time every day from 12 to 3 with myself, former Eagle Barrett Brooks, and Rob Ellis. Man, we've had an unbelievable collection of guests on our show daily, weekly, from Howie Roseman to Brandon Graham to Sterling Sharp, Chris Long. My goodness, Brian Westbrook, Brian Dawkins. It's all the writers in this region.
Yep.
Sal Palantonio is a regular guest for us.
Yeah.
Greg Cosell, who's a big time producer for NFL Films. So it's a platform where we cover everything and all things, and it's no holds barred. Yeah. The good thing though, we keep it clean. You won't hear a lot of cursing on this show like you hear on some platforms. Yes. We keep it clean, but we get our shots in.
Y'all absolutely do. And so y'all, if you're listening, you have YouTube. It's just go to your YouTube app and just type in JAKIB Media. It'll be live.
Yep.
And you can
Sports
listen to
Take.
these
That's right. And the good thing about it is, if you missed the show live, it's on the JAKIB Media YouTube platform. You can watch it 24/7, any show you want.
Absolutely. It's a lot of fun. If that's your thing, this will be your thing. So D Gunn, how many wins for the Birds this year?
I've consistently said 11. I'm going to stick with that based on looking at their schedule. You look at the quarterbacks that they're going to play this season. Outside of Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, what quarterback on their roster? Maybe Dak Prescott, but I think the Cowboys take a step back because of the personnel they've lost this offseason. What quarterbacks on their roster, on their schedule, really strike fear into you?
Right.
I think the interesting one is going to be Saints coming in here in late December. Jameis Winston, if he's healthy, will we see the Jameis Winston who a few years ago joined the 30-30 club, meaning 30 interceptions, 30 touchdowns? Or will we see the new and improved Jameis Winston under Pete Carmichael, who's been the offensive coordinator with the Saints since 2009? Jameis Winston in 7 games last year got off to a 14 touchdown, only 3 interceptions start before he hurt his knee and cost him the season. So, and that Saints team, if Jameis Winston plays like he did last year, everybody's talking about the Rams, the Packers, and Tampa Bay. You better start talking about the Saints. If Jameis Winston plays close to, when you look at the collection of talent, Chris Olave, people already talking about his rookie of the year down in New Orleans. Look at their defense, the personnel on defense that they have. Michael Thomas?
Thomas coming back.
Is back. He missed all of last year. They have the LSU receiver that was in Cleveland last year. Oh my goodness.
Jarvis Landry.
He's down there.
Yes.
So they just loaded up. Sean Payton being gone is a big loss, but Dennis Allen was the defensive coordinator, so the defensive concept is not going to change down there.
Right.
Carmichael runs the offense. That's not going to change.
Alvin Kamara's not going anywhere.
Yeah, we're still waiting to see how many games he's going to miss because of his offseason transgressions.
Of course.
So that may cost him early. But this Saints team is loaded. It all comes down to the quarterback with this team in terms of how they finish the season.
So how much – so you said that you're not – I want to make sure I heard you correctly. So you're not as worried about the Cowboys as you have been in the past.
No. Michael Gallup's coming back from a knee injury. Amari Cooper is not walking through that door for Dallas. He's in Cleveland now. CeeDee Lamb is a phenomenal talent, but CeeDee Lamb can't do it alone. They're down a left tackle. They lost Lyle Collins during the offseason. So they're trying to repatch up that offensive line. I don't think that offensive line, and you're waiting for Jason Peters to get up to speed at 40 years old to be your left tackle. Now, Jason Peters, I've said this a number of times in recent weeks. I think he's lost a step. I don't think he has that burst. That man is a house. That dude's a mobile home on 2 legs.
Yes.
And what he lacks in overall quickness, he will make up for in tenacity and tricks. He'll find ways. He'll cheat if he has to get the edge on the opponent coming across that line of scrimmage.
He will.
So, but I think Eagles win the NFC East. There hasn't been a repeat champion in the NFC East, my goodness, since the early 2000s.
When the Eagles did it.
And I think this is the Eagles' year to rise above Dallas and take the division.
But what about Week 6 in Philly? Is there any trepidation about that one?
Well, it depends on what we see the first 5 weeks. That's a telling tale in terms of what we're looking at. But I tell you what, if you have a ticket for that game, as T.O. would say, get your popcorn ready. These fans are going to be in a feeding frenzy to get the Dallas Cowboys at Lincoln Financial Field, because Dallas has basically owned them for the last couple of years.
Yes, no question.
Excuse me. And so the Eagles want the Cowboys in the worst way. That could set the tone for the rest of the division, for the rest of the season, in terms of who is the better team. Now, on paper, it looks like the Eagles are a better team right now, but you don't play the game on paper, obviously. So if they somehow Dallas came in here and won that game again, that's going to burst a lot of wind in the Eagles fan sails. That's good. And plus the Eagles go on their bye week after that game, so they're going to be jacked for that game.
Ooh. But to go into the bye week taking a loss to the
goodness.
hated Cowboys, that'd be a rough 2 weeks.
No, you got people lined up on the Walt Whitman Bridge, ready to jump off if that happened.
And you can but first they'll drop by the JAKIB Media YouTube channel to leave some crazy comments in the comments section.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, yes. No, I look forward to it. My goodness.
So it's we're got to go in worst case scenario there, especially if the Eagles already had a couple of losses, which is reasonable, guys. There are 17 games in the season. Mm-hmm. You just got to win. Again, I'm with you, Gunner. I think it's 11. I think that's the right number. But is one of those 11 on Sunday in Detroit?
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
I think Detroit's going to be hungry. Detroit's going to want to settle the score with the Eagles. They want to get off on a good foot to change the complexion of their identity. But I don't think they have enough talent overall. I think it'll be a close game for a half, because I think the Eagles offensively are going to take a while to get in the groove. The running game is going to be there, but I think the overall offensive structure may take a little while to get in the groove, and then I expect the Eagles to pull away in the second half.
They just don't have the horses, huh? If it was a quarter-mile race, then they could get us. But you got to go around the track a couple times.
You got to go around the track. You got to come around that home stretch, man. And I think Detroit. I do think Detroit is going to be a competitive team. It's going to make the game interesting, and we've told people also, don't overlook Detroit.
Right.
Don't rack that up as an automatic win, because the first game of a new NFL season, when you look at the schedule, the first slate of games in the NFL schedule on the new season, there's always 3 to 5 games where you end up going, wow, I didn't expect that to happen.
Right.
And you look at this game tonight, the Rams are at home defending Super Bowl champs, yet Buffalo's like, what, a 2.5 point favorite going across country? And I'm thinking, what do the odds makers know that we don't know?
Yep.
And so it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. But there's some games on the schedule coming up on Sunday. Well, there could be some upsets. There could be a few upsets.
Give the people a couple of those, Gunner.
Well, let's see. You have Kansas City going into Arizona. Kyler Murray's now got to prove that he's worth that money to be the second highest paid quarterback in the league right now. He's got to do it without DeAndre Hopkins, who's suspended for the first 6 games. So that's a game Arizona may rise to the occasion and pick off Kansas City, although Patrick Mahomes wants to prove that this offense was more than just Tyreek Hill. And I think Patrick Mahomes is going to come out with his playground style of football, throwing shoulders behind his back, over his shoulder, across his body.
He's been practicing it. Did you see the videos of him practicing that in practice?
Oh, yes. So I think that could be an interesting a game. I had the list in front of me. Let me see if I can find it here real quick. We were talking about it on the show earlier today in terms of some games that could be interesting type. Oh, here we go. So I think Jacksonville could go into Washington and beat Washington.
That'd be great.
You have the quarterback whisperer in Doug Peterson, who now gets to tutor Trevor Lawrence. You look at the significant moves and the amount of money Jacksonville spent this offseason in terms of pass catchers, defensive players, to put a better product on the field. I think Jacksonville could catch Washington at the right time. And I hate to say this. I do hate to say this. I think Dallas might shock Tampa. Might shock Tampa. That's a possibility.
Agree.
You know, Dak Prescott came out last week and said, hey, look, we're ready to prove a lot of people wrong. We understand that people are out there doubting us because we lost personnel, and we're not going to win 12 games this year. We're ready to answer that challenge. Right. But I think Dallas could catch Tampa. You know, Tampa's offensive line has been decimated by injuries. Yes. But Tom Brady, who has the quickest release in the NFL, he may set a new record this year for quicker releases because Tom Brady doesn't have his center Ryan Jensen in front of him because of injury. He could be back later in the season. Tom Brady's going to get that ball out of his hand so fast. You know, I don't think Dallas will be able to get out their defensive stances to get to him in a lot of ways. But you look at who Brady's throwing to: Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, you know, Cameron Brate.
Yep.
You know, you got Leonard Fournette to hand the ball off to.
Yep.
You know, so he's got a great collection of pass catchers down there in Tampa. That's going to be a good game as well. But I think now one game, I think here's another one. I think Pittsburgh could go into Cincinnati and catch Cincinnati at the right time.
Wow.
You know, Cincinnati feeling themselves being the runners-up in the Super Bowl. They improved their offensive line this offseason. Cincinnati did. Pittsburgh has some quarterback controversy going on. Everybody's waiting for Kenny Pickett to take over that team, but right now it's Mitchell Trubisky's show.
Absolutely.
Mike Tomlin is one of the best coaches in the league. He's never had a losing season in 15 years in Pittsburgh. So the Steelers are going to be ready. TJ Watt is going to be trying to track down Joe Burrow all night. So I think now one I threw in there just to get a response to see what it said. And a lot of people said, D Gunn, put down whatever you're smoking. I don't think it's going to happen. Now here's my final one.
Okay.
Everybody's hyping Russell Wilson going back to Seattle to get a measure of revenge against Pete Carroll.
Seattle? You got Seattle?
I'm not picking them. These were games where you could have a wow factor. I'm not picking Seattle over Denver. Denver is loaded. Denver could be a representative in the AFC for the Super Bowl. That's how deep and talented they are.
But maybe they're not ready. But maybe they're not ready in week one.
But, you know, Seattle has quarterback problems. I don't by no stretch of the imagination do I think Geno Smith and Drew Lock are going to lead that team to the playoffs. No. I don't care if they do have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. You know, I don't see it happening. But Seattle doesn't want to be embarrassed by Russell Wilson coming back to Seattle. Who knows what could happen the first week of the season?
Wow, that place is going to be rocking. That's going to be a fun Monday night game, y'all.
And I tell you what, I've been to every stadium in the NFL covering this game long as I have. The only stadiums I've not been to, obviously, are the Raiders' new stadium and the Rams' new stadium out west. But Seattle is one of the loudest stadiums in the NFL, like Kansas City. When you leave those venues, your ears are still ringing the next day. Mm-hmm. So that place is going to be rocking. Russell Wilson, Seattle fans are going to want the Seahawks to put Russell Wilson in his place. Pete Carroll, if you believe the story that's out there was a lot of tension in 2019 between Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson.
Russ cook.
Yeah. You know, the Russell Wilson's going to want to go back there and get his revenge. Great storyline for that game.
That's going to be an exciting one. I got for the Birds on Sunday, I got the Eagles 29-22. What are you thinking, Gunner?
I think it's going to be like a 30-21 type game for the Eagles winning that game.
More than a touchdown.
More than a touchdown, yeah. Winning that game. Yeah.
Okay. But early on, you think they'll be tussling some?
I think it'll be, you know, both teams feeling each other out, trying to find their footing. You know, I think the Eagles will be a little rusty early on because they didn't play much. The first unit played very little in the preseason. I expect them to run the ball, although, you know, the game where Jalen Hurts played, you know, the series they played, we're expecting to see the run game. They came out and he was 6 for 6 in passing on the first drive. And we're like, what the heck? Yep. You know, so maybe that's a sign of things to come also.
And I gotta say, you know, the one thing that I haven't cared much about the arm strength, the discussion about Jalen and arm strength, I was having played football, I knew that wasn't the main thing. The main thing was for me was the anticipation. And when you watch that one series, that one touchdown he threw during the preseason, he threw that ball before the guy came open. That was very encouraging.
Right. And that's a part of the hopeful maturation of a Jalen Hurts. Can he throw when he's supposed to throw and not throwing it later?
Right.
Can he go through his progressions at another level to survey a situation? Will he stay in the pocket a little bit longer and wait until one of his receivers wiggle free, or will he continue to take off a little bit too soon? There's a lot of little things, a lot of intangibles we're waiting to see when it comes to Jalen Hurts. And all the things I just mentioned are part of that maturation of moving closer to becoming a complete quarterback. And, of course, answering questions for the organization. Is Jalen Hurts the quarterback for this organization beyond 2022? Or will the Eagles have to use one of those first-round picks, or, as Howie's known to do, couple those picks to move up higher in the draft to get the quarterback that he wants in 2023?
Absolutely. Well, like you said earlier, I'm sick of talking about it. It's time. We will be watching this. We'll be able to dissect some current play, not worry what the gap is or wonder what the gap is between the Buccaneers game and now. So it's time. Gunnar, appreciate you so much for coming on again. If people have it, zoned in and out, let the people know where we can, get the latest insight from on the Birds.
Well, you can catch me as well as my co-host Barrett Brooks, former Eagle, and Rob Ellis on our JAKIB Media Sports YouTube platform, Monday through Friday, noon to 3. Our show is called Sports Take. We cover everything there is. Obviously, the bulk of it now is football, but we cover everything and anything in the world of sports. You can also find me on Gun on One, my podcast, going into my third year of my podcast. That will also be in the JAKIB YouTube channel. And if you're riding up and down the highways of life, you can also get it on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast as well. I'm all over the place, man. So if you want to find me, I'm not difficult to find.
Yeah, same here. Obviously, y'all can follow me at Politidope, POLITIDOP. That's personal, a lot of, a mix of things. But, of course, the podcast is honorable mention _podcast. You find me on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for coming on, D-Gun.
No problem. Happy to do it for you anytime.